What's going on, everybody? What is going on? So have you been going through some challenges? Have you been going through some struggles? When you think what you want about what you want the most when it comes to your business, when it comes to your career, when it comes to the connection with your family, and you think about maybe some of the things that might be blocking you, what comes up for you? Now, today we have every quarter we put together something like this is called our challenges and we really navigating life challenges and things that come up that we kind of coin as struggles so that you can get help from us, but also from the community for the inner circle. So if you're someone who you're like, you know what, I really need to lean in today, we're going to give you that opportunity and we're going to tap into three things in every single one of these questions that you guys have for us. Now, we break this down in every one of the videos that we do on YouTube, but it talks about the mindset, the tactics, and the accountability. We're going to always hit the mindset piece. That's why this is a coaching leadership channel where it has a lot to do with around the beliefs, the thoughts, the things that are in here that are causing you to take certain actions in your life. And we're going to make sure that we pre-program it so that you can wake up energized, ready to go, motivated, and you're going to be your best self. Now, the second part is the tactics, because once we have the mindset figured out, then it's like, what do we do, Mark? What are the steps that we take? And that's what we're going to be able to help you out with today with the tactics. The third final piece is the accountability, and that is getting yourself to show up and to take action. Now, being a part of this inner circle, you get an opportunity of having all three of these because as a part of the accountability, you can at any moment go into our app, share something you're going through, share what your strategies are moving forward, ask everybody else for other advice and direction, get the mindset and the tactics figured out, and then hold yourself accountable by saying, this is what I'm committing to doing, and this is what I'm committing to doing it. And then you're going to have 60 plus people who are going to be in there to help support you on the mission. Now, there's 60 plus people inside of the inner circle, but there's thousands of people in our app, entrepreneurs, leaders, people who are willing to share those strategies and stuff with you. And that's why we put this team together to best help you and support you through the mission. So if you have a place in your life right now that you want something different, but you're being like challenged right now, well, that's what we're here to do with you. And we're going to get right into the Batman song and then help you solve those challenges.
Welcome to the Inner Circle. We are proud to be on this mission with you. What mission is that? We believe that you don't have to sacrifice one area of your life to have massive success in business. We believe that what you achieve on the outside is a direct result of what you become on the inside. We believe that growing your business should never come at the expense of nurturing your family. We believe taking personal responsibility is the key to changing the outside circumstances. And we believe that your physical and mental health is the most important element to sustain your success. Thank you for being here and for being willing to lean in and be the modern leader the world needs now more than ever. You ready to do this? Let's go.
All right, guys, welcome back. Welcome back. I always try to make Teresa laugh right before we come back. But okay, guys, so here's what we're going to do. We have a list of questions that you guys asked us from inside of the app, but we want to also make sure that we ask everybody who's here live with us these same questions so that you can put something in the chat that we can help you with. Here's the thing. We want every single person who's out there who's not driving to actually answer these questions, all right? We don't want any kind of accidents to happen, but we want to make sure that you're willing to lean in and get your questions answered. So here's the questions that we pose inside the app. And every time we do one of these overcoming challenges, we make sure we put it in the app for people who can't be here, but also because it gives us some idea of like what we're going to be talking about. And really we can go back, we can research it, we can find notes, we can share things with you that we wouldn't typically be able to share if we actually just got the questions here live on the call. But we still want to make sure that we help every single person who's on this call, who's going through a challenge, so we can help you overcome them. Now, here's the two questions. Now, when I ask you these questions, I want you to think about which one is tugging you the most today, and really that question wants you to answer it. And as a result of that, I want you to put into the chat what comes up for you. So you don't have to answer both of these. Just pick one, whichever one feels like the deepest for you, the heaviest for you, and put it into the chat so you can have not only me and Teresa, but an entire team here to help support you along this way. We actually had a call with the Dad Edge, which is another mastermind that I co-run. And one of the men in there like leaned in this week with something that most people would feel like is a very vulnerable share. And what I have to say is like, when he said it, he's like, I know a lot of you guys are probably thinking, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. But that was the opposite of what everybody was thinking. everybody was like, I am so proud of him for leaning in, but also we are here to help support and see what we can do to help him overcome this challenge. And it's crazy when you realize that everybody's on the same team as you. We're not judging you. Any of those things that you think actually happens maybe out on social media, because it really does happen, does not happen in here. So please lean in and take full advantage of what we're going to talk about here today. So here's the 2 questions. The first question is related to your goals. What's a specific challenge you're facing that you'd love to get some help from us and the team today? So related to your goals, what's a specific challenge you're facing that you'd love to get some help from the team today? So that's the first question. And if that one strikes you, we want to hear it in the chat. The second question is, what's a specific question you've been meaning to ask us, but you haven't had the time or the courage to ask it? Maybe you think it's a dumb question. Maybe you think like everybody else is on a different place. Like this would just be a waste of time. All these other head voices that kind of come up. We really want to know, what's a question that you really do feel that if we answered for you, it would help you not only get out of your own way, but get you to take more action and be more likely to hit your goals. So we're going to take a second here. Gideon says she's driving. I guess she gets a pass today. But we want to hear from everybody. Now, some of the people that we have Cynthia, we have Damika, we have Tina, we have Trisha, and Shelly. So Damika, Cynthia, Tina, Trisha, and Shelly, we got your questions already. You guys are good to go. Everybody else, I would love to hear, what is a challenge you're facing related to your goals, or what's a specific question that you've been meaning to ask us that you haven't had the time or the courage to ask us? So type that in the chat. Now, while we wait, by the way, as we're going through this, if you have some feedback that you would like to give to someone else, you have some ideas, some strategies, we want you to type them into the chat, right? This is a collective group of wisdom. Teresa and I aren't the only ones who have the answers. You guys have had so much growth and experience in your life. We want to hear from you too. So as we go, if you have something you'd like to comment, we want you to comment it in the chat. Now, if you have a follow-up question to some of the things that we're talking about, or a follow-up question related to your own question, we want you to put 4 question marks before you actually type it out, so we know that it's a question, rather than just kind of like sharing some wisdom or some knowledge or some things that you want to share with the team, right? So as we go, we want to hear from you guys in terms of like what your advice and direction would be. But then also, if you have questions about what we're talking about, we want you to put the 4 question marks, okay? All right, so definitely jump in, put these questions together, and we're going to jump into the ones that we have pre-recorded or pre-done already, and then we're going to jump into your questions. So make sure that you type a question and answer to one of those questions in the chat. All right, so number 1, and by the way, we'll kind of like see who wants to pick each question, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
Sound good? Okay, so Cynthia first said, how would I present to my place of employment that my life and performance coaching skills could help change the quality of performance within the corporate family? And really, like, how could I also close a sale in that situation? So how can I present to my place of employment that my life and performance coaching skills can help them change the quality of performance within the corporate family? And how would I close the sale? So I have some ideas on this. I don't know if anything comes up for you.
The only thing that comes up for me right now is being able to ask questions as to what they would like to see. Like maybe there's a specific struggle that the company has with their employees, or maybe it's a cultural thing. And I would just be curious about like what it is that they would want to see differently in their organization. And then maybe you can offer, if it makes sense, offer, your knowledge and your skills.
I like it. One of the things that comes up for me related to like being in the corporate family. So I wasn't necessarily in corporate. Obviously, being a police officer, there is a kind of like a corporate structure internally that you don't really see when you're out on the streets. But always me leading with like, what is a problem they're experiencing, and how will them actually solving it benefit them? Then I could sell my services or tell them what I can do to help. So when I don't necessarily go in and share, hey guys, I'm a life and performance coach and here's what I can do. I actually think about some of the problems they're experiencing, how they're like, especially the ones they're unable to solve, and how I could be that bridge. And then it's much easier to have a conversation with them, right? So for me, health and fitness, for example. So back when I was a health and fitness coach, I wanted LAPD to kind of allow me to do teaching and training inside of some of the different places there, right? And they were very hesitant about it mostly because of the way that I was approaching it, but also because of the corporate structure that they have in there. And they felt like it would be me stepping on people's toes. until I found out that one of the big problems that they had is people not getting enough sleep, officers not eating correctly. They're drinking a bunch of, what do you call those, energy drinks that were not making them feel well. They were getting to uses of forces when they shouldn't be because they were so piped up on caffeine. Their personal life was falling apart. And so I jumped in and I actually helped them by solving some of the problems, especially related to health and fitness. Where I'm like, hey, this is what I do outside of this, career. It's something that I do for police officers. I'd love it if, if this would be something you think would be helpful, if I came in and helped them with their health and their fitness and getting their family and everything under alignment and gave them the motivation to do this. Do you think that would help you on your mission? And they were like, absolutely, that would help me. And so because of that, I started to give free trainings. They actually paid me because I was on duty at LAPD. They allowed me to start doing free trainings. And by doing that, I started to get my feet wet. I started to get in front of more people. The command staff eventually reached out to me and asked if I could put together a program that the high level people in LAPD would be able to consume. And they actually had to consume it in order for them to get a bonus in their police career. And so there was a lot of openings that happened as a result of me jumping in and doing that. And in the beginning, it was free, but I now became that resource. And so people would reach out to me on occasion and ask me if I could help them a little bit deeper. If I were to go back and do it over again, I probably wouldn't have done so many of those sessions outside of the bigger session. I wouldn't have done those for free. I probably would have had some way of doing some type of call to action. Now for LAPD, they were very much against you selling anything while you were there. But I could have very easily said like, hey, let's jump on a free call and we can have that conversation to see what I can do to help you. And by offering that, they wouldn't have thought anything of it. And then when I get them on the call, I can decide to do whatever I want in that situation because I'm helping them. I help them achieve something. And then I say, hey, do you think like working with me closer would be something that would benefit you? Like, what would it be like if you had this more consistently? And then from there, I would be able to grow it into like some type of paid kind of like resource, right? But one of the things that I've realized recently is you kind of have to, you have to meet them. Obviously, what Teresa said, meet them where they're at and the problems they're experiencing and how you can help them achieve that. And a lot of times in the beginning, they're not willing to pay for it. And sometimes they're just willing, they just need to get to know, like, and trust you. And so whether you do one training or one thing where you actually show them what you're capable of, and then if it works out, then you can do the next thing. That's a great way to kind of like get in with some of the different corporate fields. And so that's what I would do is I would think about what are some of the problems that they're experiencing? How can I help them solve it? How can I demonstrate that I can solve it? And then take it from there in terms of like what I would do next in terms of getting clients from there. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's see. Question number 2. Damika. Yes. Damika. After getting a yes, but I need to wait until XYZ to pay and start. What can you do between that time so that you stay fresh in their mind without being annoying or pushing?
Mm-hmm.
I know we kind of did a video on this. Was it last week or 2 weeks? Mm-hmm. Like what to do after you make your sale. Mm-hmm. So what I would say is a lot of the things that we talked about in that training where it has to do with like setting them up so that they're still excited and keep the motivation in like to the program or product is really, really important. So one of the things that I would personally do because of my life coaching background is I would say, hey, okay, so you're going to join me on this date. Let's figure out what the first day and time would be for our sessions, right? So we'd figure out what those days and times are because they're basically committing to it, right? And then I would say, hey, I know that you're not going to technically join until next week, but I would love to get started to prepare you for the first call. So let's do this. I'm going to jump on Marco Polo or send you an email or do whatever. I want you to be thinking about this. Then what I do is I kind of like give them a little bit of homework where it has a lot to do with like what they want to be able to achieve, what results do they want to have, thinking about when they actually achieve those results, how are they going to feel? What is it going to make possible for them? I want them to still stay in that heart voice where they're like, wow, this is a great idea that I invested in this. I'm super excited about it, rather than not doing anything at all. So I would say, go back to the previous video that we talked about where it says, where we talked about what to do after your client purchases and do some of those things before, right? As long as they're telling you that they're going to join. I would not do that if they're like, well, I'm thinking of joining. No, it's not time to do that. But if they're like, I'm going to join, I just need to wait for payday. We need to say, hey, here's the thing. Most people would probably just wait for you to pay until you started to like have these conversations. I don't want to do that. I know we had this conversation and your results are important to me. I want to get you started now. So if you're not against it, would it be okay if we had a little bit of time, whether it's on Marco Polo or audio text or whatever, if I start to like ask you some questions so we can get you ready so that by the time that you do and are able to pay, we already know what day and time we're going to get started. So literally, like, we're not wasting time right now. We're jumping right in to get you the results you deserve. That's what I would do, because it kind of sets you up for continuing the energy now off into the future. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And I keep saying that. Does that make sense? Can you hit me
It
every time I do?
No.
What?
It's okay. No, I don't resort to violence.
You do when we're not on the video.
Hey, now.
Okay. All right. Let's see.
Secrets.
Tina, this is going to be for you.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
With all the social media gurus out there, how have you created a strategy that works for you? I mainly follow Brock Johnson and Holly Hillier, but they continually contradict each other, and I'm left feeling like I'm throwing spaghetti at a wall. Every post feels like an experiment. I just love to have some solid ideas or a plan.
Okay. So, social media. It's just like this big giant experiment, right? And I think that we just need to kind of start off with what our goal is. What is our end goal? Who is it that we're talking to? What is our message, and what do we want to achieve? I think that we can get a lot of ideas from other people, from the gurus and things like that, and we see that they've had a lot of success. So we think that if we apply their strategies the way that they do it, that it's going to work for us. And that just leads to frustration. So my advice would be, it's kind of like really just experimenting in your own way. Because sometimes we can get away from like who we truly are because we're trying to be like other people. We're trying to adopt different strategies that work for other people. And I think it's not bad to kind of get ideas and get inspiration from people on social media, but I think we kind of have to think a little deeper as to like what that strategy is, right? So for example, when Reels came out, or even now with TikTok, it's like, oh, well, we just have to do videos and dance and just be super energetic. And many of us are not like that in real life, right? We're not like, extroverts. Like me, I'm a total introvert. So doing something like that doesn't feel right to me, and it's not sustainable. I tried that. I tried doing things like that, and it just didn't work for me. So I tried something else. And sometimes it's even off of social media. So just thinking that you have to have a social media strategy is sometimes not the case. It is about really finding what your strategy is and experimenting on it, but not experimenting too long that you get so frustrated and then you don't want to do anything at all. It's just get some ideas and, maybe even find someone who can actually ask you some questions on how to get to that point. Because social media can be really, really frustrating.
Yeah. So what comes up for me when you have this kind of question is, everybody's going to tell you about the one strategy that they use that changed it all for them. Mm-hmm. And they're not lying to you, but they're coming from their own strengths, personality, mm-hmm. past experiences, all of the things that they have gone through. They've now packaged it into this beautiful strategy to give to you. It is not going to work like how they told you. I hate to break it to you. You're a different human. You do different things. You attract different people. Like for some people, like the micro niching is the way to go. And for some people, it's literally their demise. It's everything. You cannot just say there's one right, best, only way to do anything. And so it's not wrong that they're selling these things. But when you jump into something like that, you got to ask yourself, what are the universal principles that are working? And how could I have them apply to me, my situation, and my strength zone? Can I tell you, like when people first started, when it comes to TikTok, I was not going to join TikTok, even though I just did like last week, because everybody was telling me, you have to do it this way. You have to do the dancing. You have to do the pointing. You have to do, and I'm like, I'm not doing that. I don't care if you're telling me that that's what works. My audience is not going to like that. They're more deep. They want to have deeper conversations. They want to know some of the different strategies. It's not just a pure dancing, highlight, entertainment kind of thing. And there's nothing wrong with people who do that. But me doing that is not going to be what I want to do on a sustainable way. And now understanding that I can do TikTok, but in my own way. So I know that what gets people's attention and the shorter videos, and like people are going over there for a different reason than they're coming to YouTube. I can now use that and go, what do I have to offer that's based off of my strength zone that will be beneficial over on TikTok? And for me, I'm like, okay, maybe that's my energy. Maybe that's my motivation. Maybe I'm just going to put together a TikTok account where I give people 5, 10, 15 seconds of motivation so they can go out there and they can crush their day, they can crush their career and their business, do exceptionally well with their parenting and with their health. And so I'm not doing the same thing I'm doing on YouTube over there because it's different, and I'm different than those other people. And so whenever I go through a course, I always go through it with like, this is that one thing that changed the game for them, but it may not be the one thing for me, but the universal principles still apply. And so if you look at these two and you say, well, I have to do it exactly the way that Brock does it, or I have to do exactly the way that Holly does it, you're going to fail at both of those because you're not Brock or Holly. You're somewhere else. But it's that beautiful thing where you get to try, test it, figure out how you feel, but also how people respond to you on the platforms. One of the things that like algorithms are built for is it's built for like the way that you get people's attention to stay on your video and to consume it, to watch and read your posts, to take action. And so if you look at your performance from your videos and you say, I'm going to spend the next 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks doing it this way, then you go back and you look and you say, what were the outliers? What worked really well? What didn't work so well? And then you say, based off of that, this is what I'm going to try next time. And instead of you using somebody else's plan, you're taking their information. You obviously, it's I heard an awesome quote. It was something like, it's easier to learn from your own pain. It's harder to learn from the pain from others. And the reason why they put together their program is probably because they learned a lot of pain. And I want you to be able to learn that from them, but also not think that it's a step-by-step approach that's going to be the thing that's going to change the game for you ever. Like even for me, even the belief bridge, for example, I know a lot of you guys are Josh Coates followers. I do the belief bridge a little differently than he does, right? And it's because I'm me, he's him. And even though we might have some energy, some similarities, we have a lot of differences. And so there's going to be differences to how I show up, which is why I'm on YouTube and why he's on Instagram and Facebook, because that's what's really working for us based off of us and our strengths and all the time and energy that we want to put into it. So when you go into this, I want you to really think, especially what Teresa was saying, is like when you go into it and you have a thought of like, I have to follow this exact same thing to a T, like I want you to really think about like maybe there will be a time for you to do that, to test it out, but it's always going to be the answer somewhere going to be in the middle. It's going to be somewhere around you're using some of the universal principles, you're applying them, you're testing them, and you're seeing what's working and you're making adjustments from there. One of the things that Teresa recommended is like getting somebody to ask you questions. Tina, I know we talked to you about the Success Pod, but that is a great place for us to actually ask you questions and say, go back to your analytics. I want you to tell us what are a couple different styles of videos that you used. I want you to think about like and rank them, like which one's got the most views and how can we continue to do more of that? Or really, what is that thing trying to teach you that maybe you've gotten away from? And when you do that, when you're in an environment where people can ask you those kind of questions, you can go, oh, well, here's what I was doing before that worked. And maybe here's a tweak that I could do to make it even work better. That's where the real power is. And yes, you can learn through all of these different courses and it's awesome. But I want you to know, like, you've got to find and be willing to find your way, which means not just sticking to exactly the way that everybody has told us to do it and then just moving and bouncing around. You've got to stick to something, analyze it, figure out what's working, what's not, and then figure out your way of doing it. This is something we find a lot with social media is everybody sees somebody who's like having success and they're like, that's exactly what I have to do. And I'm like, it is not exactly what you have to do. Like, I hate to break it to you. And I hate to tell you this before, because I feel like sometimes people get demoralized by this, but this is a part of business. This is why not everybody does it, because it's not a duplicatable system. When I used to say those words, I used to say them when I was in my multi-level marketing business. It pains me now to think that I used to say that all the time. It's not duplicatable because you can't duplicate me, can't duplicate Teresa, can't duplicate Tina. We do our own thing because of our strengths and our weaknesses and the things that we can tap into, right? This is the power. This is how you build a business, is when you stand out amongst everybody else and you do it your way. I mean, why are you paying Holly and Brock for all of their information? Because they do it like everybody else, or because they found their way? So I want you to really think about that, because that's how you break through in business. You find your way. Yes, you use the universal principles. Yes, you get information. Yes, you get people from the outside to help and give you advice, but really you get some coaching to find out how to do it your way. And then when you find your way, you're like, this is awesome. Let me teach everybody the one thing that I did that helped me get it to this way. And we forget that it's just your way of doing it. It's not the way that everybody else can do it, but it's still helpful to put that out there to the world, because some people have no idea where to start. So I know we went a little bit further on that one. It's because we talk about this a lot inside of our Success Pod program, where we can help define and help you find where your people are. What are the problems they're experiencing? And is it online? Is it on a different platform? Is it on TikTok? Is it on YouTube? Is it on a podcast? Is it in person? Like, all of these things are things that you can ask yourself to find out where your audience is, and then test it and see, kind of come back and see what's working and what's not working, versus just doing it the same every single time. So really, really powerful when you get to have those kind of conversations. All right. Trisha, ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Trisha says, I would like strategy and info on a 12-month business plan. I'm looking to start one for 2025. Comes up for you when she talks about a business plan.
Oh, that's interesting, because I don't think I've ever put together a 12-month business plan. I think we've put goals together for 12 months, but I think as far as like a plan and a strategy, we get a little bit more, or we break it up, like a quarter plan or something like that, because it feels a little bit more manageable. And he's looking something up.
Yep. Keep going. Keep going.
No, that's all I had. I was just, because I don't think I've ever put an actual business plan that's 12 months long.
Yeah, I think when we think about business plans, like a lot of times people think about like these thick encyclopedia, step-by-step processes of all the things that you're going to be doing in business. And I have had a lot of mentors who have done that and have told me never do that, because you're never going to know what your business actually looks like. But planning for your business is something we do all the time. I know Teresa, like when she says like we don't necessarily sit down and plan for our business, we absolutely do sit down and plan for our business. It just doesn't look the same as a corporate business plan. You know what I mean? So we will sit down while we're at Yosemite and go, okay, let's paint a beautiful picture of what like success looks like at the end of next year. And we're talking about like, what does that look like? What kind of goals have we achieved? What have we done in our personal life? What have we done in our business? And then we reverse engineer it. What are some things that we need to do and learn in order to become that type of person who can have those kind of goals, right? How are we going to do that? How many people, if we have these programs and products, how many of each one will we have to sell in order to be able to get that, right? And then we look at the numbers and we go, those numbers don't work. We need to change something up. Let's change up the pricing. Let's change up how many people that's what we do. We do it usually around December-ish. I say Yosemite because that's when we did it last time. We just sat down for like 2.5, 3 hours, and we just brainstormed like everything and what this would look like. And I was trying to pull up a document that we had here, which was like 2024 goals and plans in terms of like some of the things that we know that we're going to do, some of the things that maybe some ideas of what we could do. One of them was Mark speaking on stage. And it just so happens that I get to speak on stage next week because I put it in there. And I really think that because I put it in there, now my brain was looking for those opportunities. But that's kind of like what our plan looks like, is thinking about a year from now, what would we want to be able to achieve? Not only in our business, but in our personal life and our career and all those things, and paint a beautiful picture. You wake up a year from now, what are some things that you have? And then thinking about like reverse engineering it, like, Trisha, is like thinking about when you get to the end, if somebody were to be asking you how you were able to achieve all of those goals, what were some things that you did? What were some things that you learned? What were some strategies that you leaned into? What were some skills that you had to develop? What are some books that you read? Who did you get help from on the outside to help bridge the gap between where you are and where you want to be? Those are what we put together for our plan. And then we stick to a plan. I have it in my affirmations and I remind myself of it every day of what that plan looks like. But I also know that the plan can 100% change. Mm-hmm. It's going to change as things come up. I'm like, hey, this works better than we thought it was going to be. Let's pivot. Or this opportunity came up. This business asked me to help them create a certification. Why don't I do that instead? And so there's this ever flowing thing, but it's also something that I remind myself of by reading that affirmation. Now, one thing that I did pull up here is we were talking about starting a program for brand new business owners. This is something we want to give you guys some of the behind the scenes with, right? Now, having a conversation recently about a success pod for people who are just getting started, I was thinking about the whole business plan, Trisha, and this is why I think this is going to be important. And as we were putting this together, we saw the amount of time and energy it was going to take me and Teresa to be able to help guide people through this process of first starting their business, coming up with a plan, implementing it, teaching them sales, all this kind of stuff. And we're like, this is a lot. But also, not only is this a lot, people who are just getting started in business are not necessarily like, let me spend $1,000 a month to do this. Most of the time, they're like, I got to literally make money right now, especially in this economy. They're like, no, I can't pay for it. As a matter of fact, I got to make money before I get into this program, which is backwards. But because of the economy, it makes sense to them in that moment, right? But as we were putting this together, there was a couple things that we were going to hit on, all right? And I want to break this down for you, because these are things that I think are really, really important when it comes to setting up not only your plan, but also like your strategy around moving forward, okay? Let me pull it up. Okay, first one, starting off with what we just talked about right now, is sitting down and doing a breakdown session to talk about what your goals are, what it's going to be like when you actually achieve those goals, and what are some things that you not only did, but the skills that you've learned and what you developed in order to make those goals happen. The second piece is having to identify your core values, the things that you are, not only your strengths, but the things that make you come to life, the things that you love to talk about and you can talk about forever, because that's an important part of not only your strategy, but your business and your conversations that you're having with people. This is how you build up that know, like, and trust. So you have to identify what your core values are even before you decide what business you're going to start. This is a really, really important thing. We did it afterwards, which I highly suggest you do it before, but identifying those core values and what's near and dear to you and what you're going to stay true to through the year. Third thing is actually brainstorming your program and your product. This is thinking about the things that you do better than anyone else, the things that you've gone through, the things that you can help people through, and then thinking about what are some of the problems that you help people solve and what are some ways that you would love to help them solve it. And this is just a brainstorm. This is just you writing down all of these different ideas on what are some of the problems that people are experiencing. How can I help them solve it? And this is a really good idea to do while you're doing that business brain dump, because like later, maybe you're going to come back and go, hey, there's another problem that I would much rather solve than this other problem that I had picked earlier. So it's really a good job of or doing a good job of doing that brain dump so you can also be open to the problems that people are experiencing. Then we're going to help with starting conversations, because you don't really know if you have a business or you're solving the right problem unless you have conversations with real humans. And when you have conversations with real humans and you're like, hey, this is what I'm looking to do, now it helps you to be able to find out if this is a good idea or not for you to move forward with, right? Just like us, we were having this conversation about helping people getting started in business. And a lot of people were like, I would love that. And then when it came to be time for them to join, like we only had 2 or 3 people who wanted to join, and it was not going to be worth our time and energy and effort to do that. And so we're going to help them out in a different capacity, but not inside of this program. But if we hadn't had conversations, we would have put together all the material. We'd have done all the training. We would have recorded all the videos. Kurt would have had it edited every single one of them, made them into a podcast. And then we'd be like, okay, guys, it's open. And they'd be like, no, thank you. And then we just literally wasted our whole time, right? So having these conversations is really important when you're thinking about what are some of the problems that I'm going to solve, all right? Now, there's 2 other months that we were going to be putting together, but can you kind of see how like this structure is built from not only identifying what you do better than anybody in the world, what your specific goals are, what are some of the problems that you're going to help people solve, what are some of the actions they're taking that is creating those problems, and if you're a life coach, what are some of the beliefs that they have that are creating that whole problem in and of itself. And you can get more intimate with what your customers are struggling with, and then having conversations with people to see if that really is the truth. And by doing this and getting really clear on the problem that you're helping to solve, all those different ways that you could solve it in a one-on-one, you could solve it in a success pod, in a small group, in a course, in a PDF, in a journal, in a book, in a whatever, just writing down all the things that potentially come up to your mind. This is how a plan starts. A plan doesn't start with, okay, let me get exactly what I'm going to do. It starts with like a huge brainstorm and going, which path seems like the best path to go down first to try it. And then know that it's probably not going to be the first path that actually works. It's probably going to be the 19th path, but that's kind of like how it works. So I kind of wanted to share that with you, Trisha, just so you can have an idea of some of the things that we do when we do sit down. But I wouldn't necessarily call it like one of those big book business plans, because you can actually go online and type in business plan, and it'll help you write your motto, and it'll help you write your what do you call that?
Yeah, it
Your
gets into the
like all of
details.
those specific details, when in reality you don't even know what you're going to be helping people with because you haven't had conversations with them, right? And so by being able to get more clear with it and being able to brainstorm it gives you so many different ideas that you can like now break down into like quarterly things instead of yearly, right? I think Teresa was saying this, like instead of focusing on the whole year, we start with a year. Actually, I start with 5 years out usually because it's so much easier. When you're 5 years out, it seems so much easier. It's like, oh, okay, I don't have to really do anything right now, but this is what I would want. And then when you take that 5 year into that 1 year, and then you make it into the quarters, and then some people make it into the month, whatever feels good to you, that's where we want you to be, right? Wherever that is. But you've broken it down from that 5 year vision or year goal, however it is that you specifically do it. We teach to do it for the year. But being able to do that will help give you some more clarity. I mean, I literally read mine every day. And every day I go in there and I go, oh, here's something that I can update. Oh, here's something that I can change. Oh, here was an idea that sounded great back then, but it was a terrible idea. And let's never do that again. All right. That happens all the time. But it's kind of like an evolving plan rather than a this is set in stone kind of plan. I'm going to get this typewritten and printed out in triplicate and never be able to change it, right? We want to make sure that it is an ever flowing one, especially with the online business. So much more different. Okay. I hope that helped, Trisha. I hope that helped. All right. Shelly, and then we're going to get into the live ones. All right. Shelly says, how do we find the balance so we don't burn out, especially when we work a full-time job as well? It feels like I'm trying to do all the things and not finding a good balance, so much so that my husband has asked if I should take a break from my business before I burn out.
Yeah, we've talked about this a lot.
Let's go. Yeah, let's keep going.
Yeah, I think like when it comes to like you're becoming aware that it's getting to that point where you're like, I'm approaching burnout. Obviously this is a good place to be because you can actually make some tweaks so that you don't get to that point. But I think that like the universal thing is really about prioritization, right? And really what matters most to you right this moment. And then focusing on like those specific things, because, you know, the 80-20 rule, right? It's about identifying your 20%, the 20% of the activities that you do that produce 80% of your results. And, you know, when we're a mom and with the career, we're married, doing all of this stuff, it can feel like everything is important, but it's not. So there are seasons of our lives, there are moments that, or there are things that are just more important than others. And we just really have to sit down and be real with ourselves to identify that and just say, you know what, I'm putting my foot down and I really have to figure this out so that I don't get to the point where I feel completely useless, right? Because we're always trying to do so many things for other people that we sacrifice our own well-being. So before it gets to that point, we need to realize that there just some things are going to have to be set to the side. And that could be your business, or it might not be. Like it might be that because you're holding on to it because you know that it's going to make such a huge difference. And I know that you've talked to Mark, and you know I've coached you as well too, Shelly, where this is really important to you and you know the potential that it has and what it can do for your family. So it's about identifying, you know, this is truly something that you want to work on, but you don't want it to like make it so that you burn out. Then you have to sit down and really prioritize and see what it is that you can do right now to avoid that.
100%. 100%. So a lot of our clients, this is literally how we start. Last Thursday, first one-on-one, our first a one-on-one call with a new client, and she's going through this exact same thing, not the exact same thing that you're going through, but she's going through the experience of like burnout and overwhelm and a lot of things going on. Client before that, same exact thing. What's crazy is when we helped this other client get through it, how much more clarity she had and how much more she got into taking the right actions in her business, but also she's gotten more close to her husband and her kid than ever before. So I want to start off with this. And that is like, this is a great opportunity for you to listen to the smoke detector. Okay. So here's the thing, like what's going off right now is the smoke detector. If you don't go to see if it's just you burnt toast or you've actually like got a fire in your bedroom, you're probably going to like actually continue to experience the burnout because you're ignoring the fire alarm. But this is an opportunity for you to tap into it and find out What is causing that to go off? So one of the things that we have our clients do is, first off, we have them get on a call with us and just have conversations about all the things they have going on so they can put it out into the world, right? Because sometimes just having a conversation with somebody else who can hold space for you, won't agree with what it is that you're saying per se, but can hold space for you is really, really powerful. And jumping on a coaching call with somebody can give you a lot of feeling of they understand it's not just me who this thing is, in their head. It's also somebody else now knows what I'm going through. But then they can ask you questions to find out where that smoke detector or smoke alarm is coming from. So for you to look around and share what that situation or what that area is that you could actually use some help in. Typically what we do is we have our clients like focus on, after we identify some of the things that are coming up for them by asking them some questions, we have them take a look at their life and do a version of what's called a time audit, meaning looking at the time that they are spending throughout the day and showing us what it is that they're actually doing. Because a lot of times when you actually see that, that's when you start to identify where the smoke alarm is going off and why. And the truth is that sometimes it's just like, oh my God, I realized that I was wasting time. But a lot of times with our clients, it's not that. It's I'm giving too much time to this one area, or I'm refusing to give up some of the things to allow somebody else to do it because I feel like I won't be a good X, Y, and Z if I give that up. It could be things like cleaning the house, sending messages on social media, doing your website, doing your Canva, putting together your landing pages, watching the kids, taking the kids places. All of these things that we convince ourselves that we have to do are a lot of times the greatest opportunity for us to lean into. Like, do we really have to? Is there another way that we actually can, make some different changes and do some different things? But it really starts with this whole idea of the fire alarm is going off, the smoke detector is going off. I have to find what it is that's actually the root of this issue, right? And so having a conversation with a coach, being able to actually get somebody to ask you those questions to get to the root of what's going on is going to help you out a lot. Instead of just trying to push through, trying to figure it out on your own, like it's one of those things where you need somebody else to come in and to help you identify what that thing is. And then we'd ask you like, what could you do differently, right? What are some different things, maybe some hard things that once you put them in place, maybe some boundaries, maybe some changes, what do you think that would make possible for you? And how do you think you're showing up in every area of your life if you feel overwhelmed, like you're going to burn out? Like, what are some ways that we can take control of where you're spending your time and your energy right now before the world takes control of your time and your energy and basically does burn you out? And what are you going to be able to do then, right? For me personally, going through burnout myself, where I actually developed shingles, who knows if it led to my Crohn's disease. Like, I got to tell you, I wish I had listened to the smoke detector sooner because they were trying to teach me something. And if I could think about that in terms of this thing is trying to teach me something and then get some help to actually learn what it is, like those are the greatest opportunities that we have, because when you lean into that, you can actually do something different. But you have to focus on that story first off, that this is trying to teach me something and this is going to help me out so much. But also once I get through this, I'm going to have now a roadmap to be able to help so many other people through it too. When you tap into that, it just helps you show up like on a different level. So I hope that helped. Yeah. Cheryl says, I love the smoke detector analogy. Yeah, Cheryl, that's a lot of what I think about when it comes to these type of situations is like the first time, and maybe not the first time, but multiple times, even if it's like relationships and things are coming up and things are making you feel uncomfortable, that's the smoke detector. Are you going to pretend like it doesn't exist? Are you going to just take the battery out of it and just say, oh, it's probably nothing else? That is like one of the worst things we could do, because we tend to overthink about all the things that it could be that we actually don't take any action at all. Which, by the way, have you guys seen Inside Out 2? All my life coaches, I'm going to recommend that you watch Inside Out 2. It will relate to so many of the questions and challenges that you're going through right now, especially the anxiety emotion. If you haven't seen that, it's like the perfect like example of what's happening in your brain. And as a life coach, what you're becoming aware of, instead of like punting the memories that you don't want to think of to the back of your brain, we actually become aware of them. Then we can actually make decisions on things that we can do differently, right? And this is the same thing, is instead of punting the way that we feel about being overwhelmed, we actually bring it to the front, get to see it, and then we get to actually make a different decision if we choose to. But if we keep punting it to the back, it's going to keep coming back, right? It's going to keep coming back over and over. And then we're going to need Pouchy. We're going to need to call Pouchy out and have him
Don't get
come help save
spoilers.
us. Okay. So thank you guys so much for those questions. And if you have any follow-up questions to those guys, please hit us up. Now we're going to go through some of the questions that are here live. Do you want to pull one up?
Yeah, there's one. Comfort Odyssey.
Yeah, Christina.
Okay. So there it's kind of a combo, but says, how do you handle a situation where your family and friends admire your work, however, requesting for you to do it for free?
So what comes up for me is if somebody is asking for my work for free, there are going to be certain circumstances where maybe I do kind of like actually do some stuff for free. But obviously, I can't do everything for free, or I wouldn't be able to support like me, my family, and even my clients, right? I would be out of business and nobody would get anything, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things I would think about is I guess the first thing is like, why do we think that that everybody is asking for your stuff for free? Is it because like you've done it in the past? Is it because that's just a normal thing that they see you doing? They see you giving out a lot of free stuff, so they're asking for it. I also like think that like when you find that a lot of people are doing that, it could be something that you have done that has given them the impression that it's something that you do for free or something that you can help them with for free, right? So when I think about it, I would want to actually hear about a very specific incident where somebody actually asked you to do something for free and what that conversation looked like. I'm not sure if you're still here, Christine, but if you are, let me know. Like, give me an example of when somebody asked for your services for free, and kind of like how that path went down. Because I find that a lot of times when we don't have boundaries set up and people infringe on our boundaries, it's because they've either seen other people infringe on the boundaries or we haven't set it up in a way that that kind of like values our worth and what we're capable of and the things that we're able to do. And we've actually done that. It's not them. It's more of like an us thing, and being able to go in and reframe it after we understand what it's kind of like, how we've created that is very helpful when it comes to being able to even probably a follow-up question is like, how do I communicate to them? We want to know like how that conversation started up and what they said. And then from there, we'd be able to help you out a little bit more. So if you're here on the call, we'd love to hear that. Otherwise, I know that we are in the app together. Shoot me a text or a chat message through the app and give me an example of when this happened and what happened and how they asked you for it. I'd love to hear what that is.
Yeah, one thing I have to say about that is that it could also be like if you're going through the certification and then you're asking for help, usually the easiest way is to ask your friends and family, right? Hey, can you help me out so that I can practice, right? And then it kind of sometimes it can create a what do you call it, a precedent where they're like expecting that you just help them for free. But another thing is just to keep in mind is when we are developing the skills of coaching, it can feel like you want to help your friends and family, but a lot of times that's not the best thing to do because we're so close to them. And we have to have like a little bit more of an objective approach when it comes to coaching. So, I would steer away from like when you're practicing, obviously you want to practice with friends and family because you feel more comfortable, right? Instead of, going out and actually trying to help someone you don't know. But then as you develop those skills, you don't necessarily want to go to that route because I don't usually coach Mark and vice versa, right? Because we're like emotionally attached and, we know kind of like the background story and things like that. We may have some biases. So it's not the best thing to do that. So sometimes, like even saying like, I would love to coach you, but because like we're so close and everything, it may not be the best thing. Like I may not be able to help you, the best that I can.
Yeah. So let me put a little bit of a twist on it because what she sells is she sells like really high quality blankets for people.
Okay.
So she is not actually a coach.
Okay.
She's somebody who has a physical product.
Mm.
And I think what she was saying is that people are coming to her and going, I love this so much. Can I get it for
Mm,
free?
okay.
And there's something that's missing there, whether it's some cues or something that you have set up that people feel like it's okay to actually ask you to do that for them for free, right?
Mhm.
So here's the thing, like if you guys go to Walmart and you get a cheap blanket, you're not going to ask them to do it for free. And the reason why is because they have boundaries in place, and they have, I don't even want to say boundaries. They've set it up in a way that makes it feel like this is a store. This is something that, you're going to get these blankets. You're going to get like what it is that I have to offer. And you're not going to ask if it's for free. Right. But especially when we come from a place of service and we like just want to help people, sometimes we don't realize, but our language is basically trying to tell them that we're going to give it to them for free. And even if we do give it to a couple people for free, now people make it a precedent thinking that it's something that is going to be for free. But we have to actually set some boundaries there and make sure that people understand that, yes, we would love to be able to make this and be able to do this for them for free. But there's a reason why it costs, because it takes money from you in order to put all that stuff together, especially this high quality stuff that you do, that it's just something you can't do for free, right? So being able to set up some boundaries like that is really imperative. But I don't know even how to give you advice, because I don't know the situation that you're in right now.
Just put it right here.
What'd she say?
So an example is that a friend had asked about the blanket process. I explained the step by step and show photos of the most recent handcrafted blanket was completed and explained the prices of the material. His response is that it's pricey. Can you do it for free?
So my answer would be no. I wouldn't even maybe necessarily even explain it. So if somebody's like, wow, that is really hard work. It seems like it takes you a lot of energy and effort. Can I get it for free? I'm like, no. I mean, I don't know what else to even say in that situation, where you literally, if you walk them through, like, here's all the processes, here's all the time and energy that it spends and how much money it is. And they say, can I give it for free? Like the only thing that comes up for me is thinking about them and maybe something that they could offer as a trade if you wanted to. Like, maybe that could be something. But if somebody's like, Mark, let me give you an example. It's $9,000 to work with me one-on-one, right? And somebody's like, wow, that would change my life. Can I get it for free? Like, my answer would be like, no, like, this is a part of the process. And there's two parts of this process. Number one is for me to be able to sustain myself, but also my business, so that I can be here for you. But number two is when you buy in, you actually take more action on that thing than if you were to get it for free. So this is not a part of my free business. What I can offer you is the podcast. You can definitely listen to the podcast for free. That is something that you can do, right? So even there, you could just say, hey, no, this is something that actually is paid. It's a part of my business. It's what I do, like, for a living. If you'd like to do something, whatever it is, if you have like maybe some free tips, or maybe you can even, this is something you could do, Christina, is like put together a PDF that shares the steps around how to do it. You're like, I can share a free PDF on the steps that it takes for you to build it if you were to want to do that. Here's that. But actually, like, getting the physical product, no, because it costs me money and time and energy away from my family. And that's something that I have to charge for. So that's kind of like how maybe I would explain it after I took a second to breathe. Because if somebody's telling me that they see all the value and the energy, and then they're asking me, oh, but can I get it for free? I kind of feel like I need to take a breath and step away from my head voice for a second and go, okay, let me breathe. And then maybe I'll get back to them a little bit later with a more conscious energy, like where I'm coming from a place of like compassion for them, still wanting it for free, and then maybe send them in a different direction. So that's what I would do. But I would also say that this is a great opportunity for you to set up those boundaries, because the first time you say it, it's going to be harder. But every time after that, it's not going to be as hard, because then you're going to be able to sell it a little easier. You're going to be like, I wish I could, but this is like time and energy away from my family. It cost me money to be able to do this. It took me so much energy and effort to even learn the skills that I had to put together to do this. So I'm sorry, but I can't offer something like this for free. Even like for the price that I'm giving them, and I know the price you're giving them, it is literally a steal compared to what they would pay if they were to go to like somebody who is doing this on a bigger scale, right? So even compared to that, you should be raising your prices even more, right? But being able to just have that conversation and going, I'm sorry, I can't. What I could offer is like maybe this blueprint that I can put together to share with you on how the structure of it is if you want to do it. But it's definitely something that takes a lot of time and energy, and I just can't offer it for free, right? I hope you understand. I mean, even just saying something like that might be helpful to kind of like release a little bit of the stress. Did she say anything else? Anything else?
Yeah, it's setting boundaries and standing firm. Don't let my heart take over.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, and when we think about your heart taking over, I want your heart to take over, but I don't want your heart to take over in that you have to sacrifice for someone else. Because that's not the truth. The truth is you don't have to sacrifice. You could both win. There's an opportunity for you both to win. And if we think leadership means me sacrificing so somebody else can get something, that's not a good equation, because you keep sacrificing, you're going to keep staying where you've always stayed, right? Because, and I found that out for a long time, writing meal plans for people for free, doing exercise programs for people for free. Like literally all they did is wanted to get more and more and more and more stuff for free. And it was my fault for doing that, not theirs. And so I had to make some site corrections. But I did find a way that when I do charge people and I do protect my time and my energy, especially my time and energy away from my family, that they respect it too. And so if I don't respect it and I'm giving it away for free, how can I expect other people to respect it, right? And so when you get good at this, it is you tapping into your heart. But it's not the heart that's tricking you that says that you have to sacrifice and you have to give up in order for you to be a good leader or in order for you to be a good person. That's not the case at all. Everybody can win. Just have to get creative on how you do that.
Yeah, great question.
Okay, let's see. There was another question. Damika had a question. Damika says, another challenge is, what actions can I take to help me improve my coaching skills, specifically asking the right questions until I am able to enroll in you and Josh Coach's program? Yeah, so Damika, she's talking about our life coach certification. And one of the things that you can do, Damika, is continue to be a part of this, what we're doing here in the Inner Circle. And when you hear us ask a question, I want you to grab onto that question. I want you to write it down. I want you to start to understand, why did Mark or why did Teresa ask this question? And why do they ask it in this way? Because a lot of times I find that when you get really good at asking questions, yes, you have some structure and some philosophy and some things that we teach inside of our life coach certification. But a lot of it is listening for questions out in the world and going, I like that one. Let me get another one. Let me ask another one, right? And so because you asked this, let me actually pull up right now questions to ask Teresa and the kids. I want to give you an example. I'm going to actually publish it so that you guys all here can have a copy of this. These are questions that back when I wasn't good at asking questions, I had this list that I would pop up open, and I would pick one and I would go on a walk and I would ask one of these questions to the kids or to my wife, who also sitting right next to me. I kind of talked about you in third person. So having a list like this is helpful for when you're starting to have conversations, so you understand how the questions are kind of like broken down and why they're asked that way. And then from there, we just cater those questions around to, in our business, sales, getting people to take action. And we use some of the same principles, but using some of those universal principles. And the more that you ask these questions, the more that you'll get better at being able to frame them. And yes, becoming a part of the certification will be important because you'll understand some of the behind the scenes that's going on when we ask these questions. But even just having questions to ask will help you get much better at them to pull out the best in other people, right? Let's see. Yeah, Kurt had a really great response here. By the way, please, guys, if you guys have some feedback, please definitely share. So Kurt says, people ask me this all the time, like to do stuff for free. He says, I just have to remind people that I'm separating business and personal. I also make them aware of the costs involved because they may not be aware. Yeah, a lot of times they aren't aware of that cost, right? And sometimes they think that we're like multi-billionaires and that we can just give out stuff for free. And when I do that, I'm going to be giving you guys a ton of free stuff. That's what I'm here to say. But in the interim, while I'm not a billionaire yet, I'm going to make sure that I set up those boundaries and communicate it in a way that doesn't feel like I'm, getting angry or upset at somebody, but communicating it in a place coming from would you go to work? And then if they decided they didn't want to pay you because they said, hey, would it be okay if we didn't pay you? What would you think about that? That would be that wouldn't necessarily be a question I asked them, but when I'm thinking about in my mind about them asking me to do stuff for free, nobody would ever do that, right? Nobody would ever go to work and the boss go, hey, you know what? Today, I think you're a good person. So why don't you just go ahead and do this for free, right? That's the way our brain works, though. Our brain tries to trick us into thinking that if we take some money from somebody else, which is just a piece of paper that was made by man, if we take some money from them, then it means we're bad, it means we're wrong, it means we're taking from them, it means we're greedy, it means we're all these things. And it doesn't mean any of those things.
It's just an exchange of energy.
Just an exchange of energy and value, right? Just an exchange of value. I'm giving you all of what I've done and learned over the last however many years when I'm putting together these incredible blankets. I've found the best material, everything that I've done literally is just here in this blanket that I'm gonna offer to you. And when you think about the value that you've had to experience, the things you've had to go through, the business that you had to start, all the time away from your family and all those things, it's like, man, like this is way more valuable than even than I'm spending in it, right? But it helps you to kind of like reframe it in that moment to be able to stand up for yourself and say, I'm sorry, but I can't do that for free, right?
Yeah. Cheryl had a question here.
Mm-hmm.
She says, struggling how to approach new people I meet at work events, conference for life coaching business when they meet me and know me from my job only.
Okay. What do you have for that? I can give her some
No, go ahead.
pretty good tips. So Cheryl, whenever I go to a conference, there's two things that I do. And I know we talked about this when you were part of the Success Pod. There's two things I do. Number one is I'm always more interested in them than I try to be interesting. So I don't want the conversation to come to me. I want the conversation to be all about them. And what happens is when I want the conversation to be all about them, it always becomes about me because they always want to ask me questions. Sometimes I'll actually get to the end of a conference and somebody's like, I haven't even asked you any questions. I feel so bad, but these conversations have been so good. And it kind of like plants the seed in them, to reach out to me and have conversations with me, right? So the first part is whenever I go to like some type of conference, whenever I go to something, my first thing is like, I want to be more interested in people than I am trying to be interesting and sharing all the things that I do and all the strategies and stuff that I have. And what naturally happens is they say, and this happened at the last Dad Edge conference, which is why I'm back on their leadership team, is somebody was like, what did you just do right there? Like, how did you do that? Which is the second thing that I do. I try to use my skills as much as humanly possible while I'm there. So if I'm like a coach, I'm going to ask some really powerful questions. I'm going to make people think of things a little bit differently. I'm going to challenge them a little bit, maybe. And I'm going to be the person who pulls out of them such a beautiful story and such a beautiful list of actions. It's going to be a game changer. And so whenever I go to a conference and it's something where they put like mini breakout rooms or like breakout sessions, I'm like, game on. I am about to crush this, right? And so we all get started. And I'm literally listening intently on what everybody's saying. Because what is the most important skill of coaching? Listening. So I'm listening. And then when it gets to me, I'm like, this person said this, and this person said this, and this person said this. And when I hear all this, I just think of the universal principles that you guys all shared, which is this, this, and this. Can you see like how that is something that is ingrained in everybody's like, situation that they brought up? That is super powerful. It's going to really help me a lot moving forward too. And now everybody's like, how did you do that? And I'm like, I'm a coach. This is what I do for a living. I'm a life and performance coach for entrepreneurs. So I hear conversations like this all the time. And my job is to simplify them and think about what's the smallest action we can take. And so this is what I do for a living. And then people are like, where's your card? And at the time I was like, Kurt told me to have a card and I don't have a card. So I didn't have a card to give them, but I do now. Thank you, Kurt. But it's all about when you go there, thinking about how you can be interested in them and how you can use your skills to make them go, oh my gosh, like what just happened right now, right? Anytime that I go in there with some ulterior motives of like wanting to talk about my business, it just always comes out weird and awkward from me. And I'm like, I don't want to focus on that. So I find that when I go there and I showcase my skills, what I'm capable of doing, I get really interested in people instead of sitting in the back of the room, which is the old Mark, which is like I'd go to a conference, I'd sit in the back of the room and I'd be like, nobody here wanted to talk to me. I heard this great quote, guys, and it's called net work, not net play. Meaning it's work to get out there and network. It's a part of the actual word. So you have to get out there. You have to be willing to get uncomfortable. You have to be willing to ask those questions and get interested in them rather than being interesting. And then just use your skill as much as you can, any opportunity you can to blow their socks off, right? One of the things that Teresa and I were talking about, what happened?
Blow their socks
off. One of the things that Teresa and I were talking about before we went to the Dad Edge event is, and I think I kind of manifested this. Remember? Yeah. I'm like, what if Larry passed me the microphone in front of these 350 fathers? Like, what if he passed me the microphone? Like, what would I say? And you're like, I don't know. What would you say? And I'm like, I'm going to write it out. And you were like, what? Why are you going to write it out? I wrote it out. And literally when I was there, Larry's like, hey guys, I want to pass the mic to somebody who was on our previous leadership team. I really think he has something powerful to say about this thing. I was like, how did I manifest that? And it's because I was prepared. I asked myself, how can I really showcase my ability and my energy? Well, I have an idea. And that is like when somebody's like, hey, does anybody have to share anything or anybody want to grab the mic? I was like, I'm going to grab it. I'm going to raise my hand and I'm going to be prepared on what I'm going to say. And it was amazing. I actually said what I wanted to say. Took about like 2 minutes. And afterwards, one of the other leadership team facilitators for the Dad Edge, Jason was like, okay, everybody, I want everybody on 3 to say, Mark, come back. And they literally, like 300 guys are like, Mark, come back. And after that, they got me in the hallway and they say, hey, how can we have you on the leadership team again? We need that energy again. We need the coaching. We need your helping them become aware of some of the things that maybe they weren't aware of, because you're excellent at that. And if I hadn't put myself in that situation, I hadn't been prepared. I hadn't even had that conversation with Teresa. And I wasn't going to this thing knowing that I want to practice everything that I possibly can so they can see it. I want to make sure that I'm interested in them, and I want to be prepared for any opportunity that could happen, because I know based off of the past conferences that sometimes they ask you to take the microphone. I wanted to know that was going to blow their mind, and I wasn't going there to learn, guys, even though that was the best one that I learned so much. I didn't go to the conference to learn. I go for the conference to network, to show people what I can do.
That's the biggest takeaway I've had from that because I used to go to networking events to learn new skills or to learn something, and I would, have my notebook and I wasn't talking to people. Like I wasn't, I mean, if they would ask me a question, obviously, but I wouldn't go out there and like introduce myself and just try to learn about other people. I was trying to learn the subject. And yeah, that's great. You can learn some new things from that. But the point of networking events is to network with other people.
I love it. I love it. Cheryl asked, yes, I did. And when I asked them, I gave them my job business card to connect. Cheryl, destroy those job business cards. They do not exist anymore, my friend. When you become a business owner, your current job does not exist.
Like,
it only
I don't
exists.
have my job business card, but I have my
exactly. It
card.
Only exists to get you in the room, my friend. It only exists when you're in the room. That card does not exist. You ran out of them, but here's another way for you to contact. One of the things I asked Kurt to do, by the way, a lot of the things that we talk about here on the channel, Kurt does for us, whether it's editing the podcast, editing the videos, doing the shorts, doing the TikToks, like all of these things, like I could not do without him. One of the things he did is he designed a business card for me, both an electronic and an actual legit business card. Sure, on the back of the business card, it says something related to if you're struggling through or you're navigating a challenge and you'd love to jump on a call with me, I offer a free one-on-one call to help you get to the root of what's actually holding you back. It's something super simple, but I don't have to tell them that I have a one-on-one. They literally get my card, and on the back of the card, it says, struggling with something or need some additional help and support, I offer a free one-on-one to everybody who is looking to get some help, right? And so I don't have to tell them. It's going to be on my card and they're going to be able to read it, right? So when I'm having those conversations and I'm like, let's say I get into the room for LAPD or whatever, like I'm not showcasing what I did in LAPD. I'm showcasing like who I am as a coach and who I am as a person and what I've developed personally. And then from that, it's going to be a natural fit for me to share information about my business if they ask for it. And I just have to be ready for it, right? Having a business card, knowing that you're going to pass it out. But here's the thing, Cheryl, is you, because you've done this, you literally are learning from the lessons of you just getting out there and networking. You're like 99% further along than most people who just think about what it would be like at a conference or think about what it would be like at a get-together. I know you, friend, being a part of the Success Pod, we got you to go out there and have conversations and to join these kind of programs and to be able to form connections, find out which groups to be a part of and which ones not to be, right? Because you're going to find out which groups not to be. But being able to do this and learn the lesson of going, oh, next time, what would I do differently? Oh, I would bring my other business cards. And even if somebody wanted my business card from what I do for a living, number one, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to showcase what I have in that specific area unless it's directly related to what I'm doing in coaching. But I'm going to give them my coaching business card. And then if they need to contact me, it has my contact information there, even if it's somebody from that outside business, right? So if somebody were to say, hey, Mark, I'd love to see your business card, or I like to connect with you. I'm not going to give them my LAPD business card ever. Like I would just give them one of my personal business cards that helps them connect and find out what I'm doing with modern leadership. So, but being able to go through that situation, Cheryl, now you're like, oh, this thing is trying to teach me this lesson. And it brought up this really beautiful question that you asked here, which is not only good for you, but it's good for everybody else to hear. because everybody else who's thought about doing this but hasn't done it, Cheryl is a butt kicker. She's already out there doing it for you. So she's solving the problems for you. So learn from the pain of her and the pain of me of not having this all prepared, not having that business card, even though Kurt told me, bro, I think you should have a business card. I'm like, that dude, that's so 2021, right? And then people, like 5 people asked me for my business card and I'm like, dang it, right? And it's not the same when you say, oh, just follow me on LinkedIn or follow me on Instagram. They disappear.
Sometimes
they
you have
disappear.
the longest handle and you can't really.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm Coach Mark Leadership Mark 10.43. So yeah, follow me. I'll see you soon. Okay, buddy. Yeah, never to be seen again. Right. So at least being able to do that, and in those situations, like another thing that I would probably do now is get their card so that I can also follow up with them. And if I did follow up with them, I would not make it about me and what I could do for them or all that kind of stuff. I would be like, hey. And I've done this I've had a couple different business cards at the end of a conference. I would get back and maybe like 3-4 days afterwards, I would send them like an email or a message or a text or whatever, just saying, hey, just thinking about you ever since that conversation that we had about X, Y, and Z. Like, I love what you're doing for your mission. And I would share like some kind of inspiration with them, right? So that they can remember what it was like when I was with them. And then if they decide to continue the conversation, I do, but I also don't bring it up because I feel like that, for me at least, it's a little weird to say, oh, and by the way, would you want to go jump on a free call and like, pay for my services? I always like to like leave them with that like emotional high where they feel really good about having that conversation. And so that they know to reach back out when they do need something. And they have everything they need. They have my business card. They have all those things. They probably follow me on social media. They're probably watching me right now. I don't know, probably one of you guys is. I know Joe is a part of our inner circle because of the data edge stuff. But it's all those opportunities that we have when we're willing to get out there, get uncomfortable, like Cheryl did, and be willing to do those things and learn from them. So, all right.
That's it.
I think that's it. All right, guys. I hope that was helpful. Thank you guys very much for leaning in, for bringing us these questions. I know we went about an hour over, but we want to make sure that we can help you through. An hour and 11 minutes. Sorry, we went 11 minutes over. But we want to make sure that we always can serve you guys as best as we can. So as we go, yes, we're going to have more videos that are like this, talking about challenges. And from these videos, we actually usually put together some teachings and some trainings to be able to help you out. But as you're going through it, if you're struggling through this is what the inner circle is for. If you go into the app, we have a very specific squad room that's called the Inner Circle. So if you click on the 3 dots, if you're on the app, you scroll down, you click on the Inner Circle squad room, and you click on feed, you're going to be able to see like some of the things that we share inside of the app. But if you're going through a struggle, if you need a little inspiration or you want to give some inspiration, you find something that's really powerful you want to share with the team, that is where you go. You don't have to wait for these bi-weekly calls to get some support. We are there for you. I check the app every single day. Our entire team does. And we can help you out however best we can, but not if you don't wave your hand, not if you don't ask for help. So continue to lean in just like you did today. And if you need anything, don't hesitate to reach out. All right. Ready to go?
Yep.
All right, guys. Have an incredible weekend. We will see you next weekend. We're going to have a very powerful call. We're actually bringing on an expert related to systems, automations, and making your life easier so that you can actually spend time doing the things you want to do while still growing your business. Got a really powerful guest for you guys for next week. It's going to be just a video open to everybody on YouTube. Definitely make that if you're struggling with time, struggling with systems, and getting things on a wrap. All right. All right, you guys, have an incredible weekend. Spend some great time with your family, and we'll see you real soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye.